everybody. Welcome. It's FanGirl Friday Live. My name's Anita Castellar. Welcome to another segment of FanGirl Friday Live. And I am, of course, part of the FanGirl team here at FanGirl Consulting and Brand Management. Thank you for spending your time with us this week. And if you've returned from another segment, thank you for spending it multiple weeks. Hopefully you will be dropping a little knowledge here. We'll be doing that. And hopefully you'll enjoy what we have for you today as well. So we're going to return back to the world of anime. If you guys are watching before, if you've checked out our YouTube channel, you saw that we had a great segment with Mary Franklin. Shout out to Mary Franklin, head of events for Crunchyroll. But we're going to return to Crunchyroll for a different kind of conversation. And here I'm going to bring in my good friend, Mike Melby. How are you, Mike?
Great. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, so Mike is a little bit different in Crunchyroll role, and I'll let him get into that in a second. But, anime's been making such a big splash lately. It's not something that's new. It's like the longest startup ever. But everybody now, for some reason, is getting really woken up to anime as a genre, with the power of anime, the power of storytelling in anime. So I thought we'd take a little bit of a deep dive into the genre and some of the stories, some of the titles, whether they be through Crunchyroll or not. We can talk about all that. And also, understand what is Crunchyroll exactly. And Mike, what is your role, right? So let's start with who you are and your title.
So I'm the Director of Consumer Products at Crunchyroll. So my role is to help bring the many brands we license or produce to market through merchandising, publishing, games, and other products.
That's great. So that way we can live out all of our fantasies at home. we can wear the tees, we can read the books, we can play the video games. So that's kind of what your role is, right? Take those things that we're seeing on the screen through licensing, through relationships, and then bring them to life. And then people purchase that stuff where exactly can be found?
Yeah, so you can find a lot of this product through the Crunchyroll store. Through our website and our app, you can shop for your favorite, Naruto t-shirts, Gundam Figmas, and Gunpla kits. Some of our retail partners include Hot Topic, Barnes & Noble, Box Lunch, Urban Outfitters, Spencer's Gifts, HMV, Forbidden Planet. So as well as mass retailers like Target and Walmart are making a huge investment in anime.
So that's interesting, right? Because before it was kind of underground, only online or only in comic book shops or fan conventions or something could you get your favorite anime swag. But now I find it very interesting that we see mainstream mass market retailers kind of jumping on board.
Yeah, it's been becoming more and more mainstream. I've worked in the anime industry since 2003 or 2004. I started off with Viz Media, and Viz really helped bring anime to the mainstream through publishing. We were really pioneers in getting the independent and specialty independent market interested in manga, in anime, but also helping open doors with Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Media Play, as well as Walmart and Target. So it was a little bit hard, 20 years ago. Anything outside of Pokemon or Dragon Ball didn't get a lot of traction, but I think today, buyers are really listening to hear what's new.
Yeah, I think, if you want to continue to tap into, growing trends or the younger generation, what they think is cool, before it was very difficult to get, anything that was anime. Just walk down a street now and you go to a favorite store and you could find something, even if it's a Funko Pop or something.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is, Crunchyroll, is one of the leaders in distributing anime globally. Crunchyroll sort of formed because localization of anime produced in Japan coming to the rest of the world was really slow. It would take, sometimes 3 or 4 years after it launched in Japan to migrate its way over to the rest of the world. And Crunchyroll helped speed that up. It helped create simulcasting, which is streaming content the same day that it's being broadcast in Japan. And Crunchyroll helped localize that with subtitles in several languages. So it helped, bridge that gap. And anime fans, much like a lot of consumers today, are in a world of I need it now.
Yeah.
I don't want to wait. So Crunchyroll helped provide us a licensed solution to a problem where fans were tired of waiting, or creating their own solutions to bringing this content. And we're starting to see that in merchandising too. Fans don't want to wait.
Yeah.
All the stuff that's coming out in Japan, they want it to come to the US or France or Brazil much quicker. So a lot of what we're doing is trying to create that speed to market, making sure that fans can access licensed products earlier. And if we don't, then we see stuff pick up in the I guess, the direct to garment business, the print on demand and whatnot.
I'll say it for you, the bootleg business.
Yeah. But that exists because, again, the process, the make and everything historically is slow. So.
Yeah. So have you always been like into specific fandoms? Is it, have you always been a fan of anime in particular, or just other things in general?
Yeah. So I'm a military brat. My dad was Navy, so we traveled. We moved every 2 to 3 years everywhere. I was fortunate to spend close to 4 years in Korea, and then close to 7 years in Japan.
Wow.
So my childhood was, watching Doraemon, Slam Dunk, Anpanman. It wasn't G.I. Joe and Gem and the Holograms. It was Japanese. It was Japanese. Animation for the most part. We had 2 channels with English content, and it was mostly just reruns of MASH. So I was often flipping through the Japanese channels to see what I could find, and not just animation, but comics too. It was hard to compete with all the GIs at the the local stores for the weekly anthologies. So I often went off base to buy the Weekly Jump magazine, which had 500 plus pages of comics every week.
That's pretty cool. So when you got to work at Viz Media, then that jumping forward, like that must have been kind of like very natural fit for you.
Yeah, it was exciting. I'd lost touch with some of that fandom through later years of high school and college, and when I saw the job come up, it was exciting. I've always dreamed of like being able to work in Japan again or live in Japan again, and Viz created that opportunity. Crunchyroll has created that opportunity, so it brings me back to really fond memories of my childhood, and it's really fascinating to see that something I thought would never make its way over here is now everywhere.
Yeah. It's pretty neat when we talk about this in various other locations, like as episodes and stuff, but like, that idea of being able to put your fandom to work, and actually do what you love, or work in an area of this type of business that you love, and it doesn't quite feel as heavy. I mean, there's work that's always to be done, and it can be a little onerous sometimes, and all the budgets and all that stuff. But mostly I think for those of us who are very fortunate to work in this business, in licensing, we can marry up the business and our passions.
Yeah, no, I feel very fortunate in that. Having worked in banking for a few years, that was miserable.
Yeah.
So I went from being a personal banker to selling manga and home video. It was an amazing transition.
Total upgrade. That's a total upgrade.
Yeah. And then publishing, I've always had an affinity for. In between anime, I worked at Chronicle Books in their licensing and BizDev team. And so entertainment has always been a huge interest. And I'm liking what I'm sort of seeing trends-wise, not just in anime, but is the mashing up of cultures, East meeting West. And I'm seeing content being created with Western creatives and Japanese studios and vice versa. So I think that's pretty neat.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. For those who are watching who maybe don't understand or know what anime is, right? Maybe you can give us a quick like tutorial on, what is anime? Why do people care about it? Is it really just for kids? Like, why are all these adults watching these cartoon shows, right? Like, give us a quick overview.
I mean, anime it's too big to describe accurately. I'll do my best, but anime is a medium for for sharing content of all genres and all demographics. So when you think of American comics, you think of superheroes, or you think of Conan the Barbarian and Superman, and sometimes some horror, from like Steve Niles, and it's. But with anime, you have everything from Food Wars, which is Top Chef meets anime, to children's programming, to really adult seinen type content. From Naoki Urasawa, who, one of my favorite stories is basically a series called Pluto, which is basically Astro Boy meets True Detective meets Blade Runner. So it's there's some really highbrow, high concept storytelling. There's even manga about wine. So if you're interested about like the latest and greatest wines,
that's me.
There's also culinary manga called Oishinbo, which is about the working class, people who are working hard at a publisher or at a news station, who are sharing their favorite meals together after a hard day at work. It's and then there's some really sexy or ecchi stuff as well. So you can't say anime is for kids or it's for adults. It's for everyone. There's romance and drama, there's action, there's horror, there's everything. So
there's even like some for the LGBTQ community, and there's lots of variety, it seems like. And it's so why do you think maybe because adults are still watching it or what have you, or the genre is there, is it like a self-fulfilling prophecy that because adults are tuning in, the content is being created, or is it because the content is being created and then the adults are being attracted to it? So like, how do you see that?
I think in Japan, it crosses over to all generations. It's so accessible. There's so many different publishers, and where it really starts is there's weekly magazines, which are a collection of chapters of dozens of different stories that several publishers like Kodansha and Shueisha in particular distribute at the newsstand. Those are collected, I think, more frequently now into monthly releases. And then they serialize all these stories and collect them into tankobons or graphic novels. And then if that graphic novel sales exceeds expectations, then they greenlight it into an anime.
Yeah.
So there's a whole life cycle to manga and anime in Japan. And various, magazines cater to different audiences. So some more juvenile, some much older. But really, I think the teen is the sweet spot for, the middle school to teenage years. And then
so really by the time it gets to anime, like an actual animation, someone has, it's been vetted multiple times over because it's popular, right? As far as a printed form, and it has a built-in, fan base. And then somebody's, actually invests money into creating an animated series, which is quite expensive.
Yeah, it's animation costs are not getting cheaper. But Japan's, a lot of successful animation studios still use cell animation.
Wow.
CG is king for a lot of animation studios, but in Japan, the really popular anime are primarily cell art mixed with a bit of CG. So that process is much harder. And what's making anime so consumable is, there's more than 200 shows coming from Japan every single year.
Wow. So that's a lot of content.
It's a lot of content, and when there's that much content, it's easier to distribute. And
so Crunchyroll came about to distribute the content, right? So
correct.
To bridge that gap between what was happening in Japan versus those people who were interested in other countries, primarily in the West, for that content. So how did that story come about, that Crunchyroll came in to fill this gap?
So a quick, I think our core fans know this, but the industry doesn't know, is that Crunchyroll started as a peer-to-peer service. So it was basically fans doing their own subs and dubs and sharing that content peer-to-peer. And then we grew too quickly. So we had to go the license route. But through that, our founder, Kun Gao, helped, make some connections. I mean, he basically just got on a plane and started knocking on doors and asking for licenses. I mean, that's incredibly hard. Him and Vince Sortino just like boots on the ground, knocked on doors, and didn't leave until they had licenses. And they were able to get the Naruto license. I remember being at Viz, and that was just a shockwave to our company when we were the master licensee, and Naruto and Crunchyroll got the streaming rights. But that was a pretty earth-shattering moment. But Crunchyroll had a digital plan, they had a digital strategy, they had a community already built. So it made a lot of sense to work with Crunchyroll and Kun. And so Naruto was sort of the beginning, and then it just blossomed
from there. Yeah, a lot of anime stories start that way. Naruto was the beginning, Naruto or Dragon Ball was the beginning, and kind of grew from there, because those were kind of the Pokemon really broke the mold as well, kind of leading the way for anime. I mean, there are some anime programs that we may have watched growing up as our generation, but they were so sporadic on, linear TV, like Robotech or whatever, I used to watch those, but I could never find it consistently. It was always jumping around in time slot or day of the week or something like that, because it for some reason never found its quite audience. So, but I felt like it was the right show at the wrong time, or shows like that were the right shows at the wrong time, and then they didn't quite catch on, but it was like this underground building of anime interest as content. And then that's when Crunchyroll comes in, or a Funimation or someone like that, streaming platform that can really get to the people directly and bypass TV systems, the infrastructure that's there. And then we get to choose what we want. So I think that's really brilliant.
Yeah, it's we might have been first to do it, but everyone's chasing anime right now. And there's been some consolidation in the market, but competition is great for anime. Rising tide raises all ships, and seeing Netflix and Amazon interested. There's some other big players who are starting to look at Japanese anime, and we're glad we helped be part of that journey of making anime more accessible. But I don't think it's going anywhere. And with HBO Max making an investment, them picking up the Studio Ghibli library is huge. I think just more and more people who are new to it, there's easier ways to dive into it. And a lot of people are probably watching anime not even knowing it's anime. They just see it as animations. Yeah,
I completely agree. I think people don't understand, just because it's an animated series. Like if it comes from a specific genre or a look or a feel, there's certain pillars. We can go all into education around anime, but as far as like the new 21st century anime, right? Or the relationships with our fandoms, a lot of it comes back to your specific role. We spoke about Mary Franklin and her role in propagating anime and the culture of anime through the events where people can get together as a community, whether now it's on virtual or, previously in physical. Hopefully we'll return to that. But with you, the relationship to anime that you're promoting is really through the products, right? Or through the storytelling of consumer goods. But related to that, you guys are doing some really cool things in merchandise, but also really cool things in content. So where do you want to go first? Do you want to go through the merchandise stuff, or do you want to go through the new content stuff?
I think maybe starting with content and then jumping into merchandise makes sense. And I think what we're starting to see in content, one of the biggest trends we've seen over the last 2 years is horror is not just a Halloween celebration. It's year round, and it's consumed year round. And we've done some really fun projects around horror with Junji Ito, who's the godfather of horror in Japan. hundreds of stories that will keep you up for weeks. You won't never close your eyes again. But Junji Ito as a creator is really fascinating. His work has been published internationally for the last 20 years. And it's psychedelic and thrilling, but we're starting to see horror take off, and not just in specialty retailer, but in fast fashion retailers as well.
Well, just look at what Universal Pictures is doing now with Universal Monsters, right? Where they have, there's a resurgence and interest in Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein and, Dracula and all the various, umbrella monsters that they have, which I've always been a fan of. But, to that effect, that's a very simplistic version of horror, but overall, you're right. I mean, there's Insidious and there's all these other movies that have been created, the Annabelle series, related to horror. Junji Ito, though, his artwork is incredible.
Yeah, his artwork's incredible. There's other artists as well who've in the horror category who've been around longer.
I think we have some images of his product too, by the way, that we might want to show. But while we're talking, so I think we have some cool pieces of merchandise, but it has his artwork on there.
Yeah, if you can show a sneak peek, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But we last week our e-commerce team launched a collaboration with the Misfits and Junji Ito. So we thought that was a really natural collaboration. The Misfits band we found out was a fan of Junji Ito's work, and having a relationship with him through the Junji Ito collection and a lot of the merchandising we've already done. And our relationship with Asahi Shimbun and Kodansha made that collaboration a lot easier. And so we commissioned Junji Ito to recreate the Misfits band as well as some imagery for the band. And we did an exclusive apparel capsule through our store. And it was phenomenal. I geeked out.
That's awesome.
We'd had a lot of success with Junji Ito at Urban Outfitters, Hot Topic, and through previous capsules on our store. We've done skateboard collaborations with Creature Skateboards, figurines in development. Funko, we just did a partnership with the New York Comic-Con coming up. They're doing an exclusive figurine for Soichi, one of Junji Ito's stories. So he's very much in the limelight right now. Cartoon Network, Adult Swim did a series with Junji Ito as well. So he's on the up and up. So any industry folks listening in, we call dibs. So please get your own Kool-Aid. But we're really excited to see him develop. But doing collaborations like this was fun. We felt the Misfits collaboration felt natural, and it was a good combination of classic punk rock mixed with horror, with classic horror artists. Was really a natural fit and fun project.
That's great.
And I want to thank Kristen Parcell for making this happen. She heads our e-commerce team, and she had an inside with the manager of the Misfits. So good relationship.
Shout out to Kristen. So you guys are also doing, so as a genre, horror has been, obviously on the uptick for everybody, who, regardless of anime or not. But Yen, I want to talk about the one behind you there, Onyx Equinox.
Oh yeah.
So what type of genre? What's that story?
So I would call this Onyx Equinox a rich story with horrific moments, but not horror.
Yeah.
It's a really original setting in that it takes place in ancient Mesoamerica, in Aztec society, and it's more of an underdog story and about championing, being good, overcoming evil, and basically the premise is the Aztec gods have grown tired of humanity. They think they're not worth saving. So as a final test to humanity, they've chosen this boy on the bottom of the of the hierarchy to be humanity's champion. And if he can save them and overcome this great mission, then humanity is worth saving. So
oh wow.
It has some really terrifying moments, pretty gruesome, but it really is just a really amazing series, leveraging relationships. There are a few horrific moments, but it's really beautiful. And it kicks off on Crunchyroll on November 21st. I think you'll love it. It is animation, but I think it's anime adjacent.
Okay.
And this was produced by our team in Burbank. This was an original production, original story.
Let's see the trailer. You sent us the trailer, so let's see that.
This blood drought has escalated. Mictlantecuhtli sunk an entire city into the underworld.
Izel was chosen?
To close the gates. But he can't do it alone.
If you fail, mankind will be wiped from the face of the earth. Bring me the boy named Izel.
You wanna play, huh? Let's play!
Izel!
You've come so far. Fulfill your destiny.
Get your asses kicked?
Hey, monsters! Come get me!
That's pretty incredible. That artwork is just amazing.
It's very unique, and we think the series does lend itself really well to merchandising. We already have a ton of apparel in development, and lots more to come. But with this series, I just feel like there's nothing else out there like it, and I'd really love to see this series become a long running animation and see where it can go.
Reminds me of the storytelling feel, right? Like an Apocalypto or something like that, where that was a pretty neat film as well. But I like the fact that, number one, it's produced by a brand new studio within Crunchyroll, right? So it's not actually a Japanese studio in Japan being now, and then you're licensing it over. You guys actually did it yourself in-house.
Yeah, it's one of our first projects we did in-house. Our head of studio, Marge Dean, in a span of a year, built a studio in Burbank.
Wow.
Hired all the staff, launched 3 shows, and they've just worked in record time and put together like a lot of industry pros and mixed with people new to animation as well. And it was really great to see this particular show with is not having source material and becoming what it is just really amazing. And working with the first time, I guess, producer of the series, and creator, that to see what it became is just mind blowing.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So it's coming out on Crunchyroll when again?
November 21st.
November 21st.
And,
it's pretty soon.
I highly recommend it. I've already seen the first 2 episodes.
That's awesome.
It starts off pretty wild, so I'll give you that. You will not be bored.
Awesome. So the one behind me too, I think if I can move a little bit, God of High School, is that also in-house production?
So we worked with we worked with some Japanese studios, but that content was sourced from Webtoon, which is a massive manhwa online comics platform, Korean comics. but Got a High School has a massive millions and millions of readers.
Wow.
who have been consuming it for several years through the Webtoon platform. And so we picked up Got a High School, Tower of God, and Noblesse Webtoon. And Got a High School takes place in Seoul. And it's a battle royale of martial artists whoever wins this tournament is granted a wish, and in this tournament you're able to channel the powers of the gods to duel each other. Each fighter has a really complicated background, really strong reason as to why they're entering this tournament, and again, everyone's an underdog trying to figure out how to become the best, and it's I
like
really
High School
it.
meets Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, or maybe Street Fighter, but
Yeah.
it's really entertaining. If you're into Dragon Ball, who isn't? But I think it's a really, really great series. A lot more content to come with that as well.
That's pretty cool. So I love the fact that, you guys have been around for a while, but yet you're not just sticking to what's normal. This is the usual, anime. This is how it's always done. This is what we always do. I think it's really exciting to see fresh infusion, into the genre and coming from all over the place, not that there's anything wrong that it comes from source material in Japan, but I think it's just interesting because now there's a whole generation that has been inspired by anime or by manga, and now they want to have their own take on that. I think it's really cool that you guys are kind of pushing the envelope a little bit and bringing some fresh new stories.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're really focused on staying true to the core anime fans, meaning everything that we can license and acquire from Japan, we will bring to Crunchyroll's platform. What's really interesting to see is, anime is becoming more global. The director behind Got a High School, as well as Jujutsu Kaisen, is Sung-Hoo Park, who's Korean. So with Got a High School, we worked with Mappa Studio in Japan. And so it's we're starting to see a lot of Korean and Chinese creators working with the Japanese studios. We're seeing a lot of Western creatives working with Japanese studios. We have a good example of where West meets East is we have an animation launching next year. It's a spin-off of Blade Runner.
Oh, okay.
We're working with a very prominent Japanese studio as well to bring that Western content.
I love Blade Runner.
So we're experimenting, and it's not just us. Netflix and Funimation are doing the same. So most of what we will bring to our fans is licensed from the publishers and studios and production committees in Japan. But what's really great is the anime industry is starting to open up to more Western partners. Crunchyroll and others like Netflix and Funimation are getting a seat at the table when it comes to producing anime, and rather than it just being completely licensed. And I think in those scenarios, it makes it easier for us to bring everything to the rest of the world much quicker and to market the content much further in advance. So it's really interesting times, that other international influences are able to participate in the creation and distribution.
Well, and it provides for a variety of more voices and more storytelling, outside of the traditional kind of this construct, right, of what we know and understand anime to be, or a manga to be. Right. So I think that would also, then enrich the type of, content that comes out, and then the type of licensing programs that we can. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about that other part of your hat, your brain that you work on every day, which is the licensing, because you've done a lot of the content piece, and then bringing that into the licensing. So then how do you decide, or how do you build, right, a licensing program based off of an anime program? Is that different than building it like for a movie or any other TV content, or is it very similar?
I think it's very similar. Honestly, what's challenging with anime is that because most of the content is licensed, we often aren't awarded that license until sometimes a few weeks or maybe even a month before broadcast. So we're chasing our tails to get the word out, and we can't really go out and pre-sell anything that we haven't acquired, right? And competition is so strong right now that shows we thought we'd easily get are now maybe going to Netflix or another competitor. So it's a battle royale. So we can't, with the major studios, there's a long marketing drum up to that theatrical release or streaming release or TV. So there's long legs, at Licensing Expo, Disney or whoever's presenting their content, a year to 2 years out. For us, we don't have that luxury. So that's a real challenge. And for retail, that has been our biggest challenge, is educating retailers and buyers. Our team tries to get in contact with our major accounts, tell them what's coming, what each of these marquee shows are about. With Crunchyroll licensing 200 shows, or plus producing maybe 40 or 50 a year, it's really hard to get in front of that. So sometimes that demand doesn't hit during the simulcast. It comes a little bit later, or maybe it's not until the second season where we really start seeing that sell through. So I think for us, it's constant education, working with the tried and true retailers, also educating people who are new to anime is a little bit harder. I don't think the Warner CP team or the Viacom teams have that same challenge. They know what Star Trek is, they know what Harry Potter is, right? For us, it's just a lot more work.
It's a brand new story, brand new title, all new characters. The one thing I think you guys have at least a little bit of an advantage is, for instance, if a movie studio is creating a new movie, but it's not based on source material, like a Harry Potter had movies, but it was based on source material, right? You already had a built-in fan base reading that, and then they mostly jumped over to the films to support that as well. But, with you guys, you have to build the content, development first, and then get the people behind it. But you do have the manga usually, which is the source material, unless you're doing new things like the Onyx Equinox or other things, right? So at least you have really that helpful. Built in.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I think, the Viz Media is Kodansha USA's, Yen Press, and I'm sure many more who are localizing manga really help set the stage. It mostly helps. Sometimes the manga is better than the anime, and sometimes the anime is better than the manga. So it's not always like,
1-to-1.
I won't say any titles in particular, but there's been times where like something made it to the New York Times bestseller list for graphic novels, and then the anime was just a complete bomb. So, and then there's other times where like, I'll use this as an example. Attack on Titan manga wasn't very popular in the US, but then the anime came and it just blew up, and we were seeing the Nielsen numbers just go through the roof after the anime launched on Crunchyroll.
Such a good anime. It's such a good show.
And I think that
season 3 coming soon.
The finale is coming, so I'm pretty excited about that. But so there is that, but not everything's a slam dunk. So.
No, it's true. And that's true of every other, genre. So in licensing, then how do you choose? Because there's so many pieces of content, right? 200 a year or 40, 50 in-house. How do you choose which ones to prioritize for licensing? And then what types of products do they all get? Is it like similar, or are there different things for everybody?
So obviously we gravitate to where our largest investments are on either the licensing or production costs. I think anyone would be insane not to focus on your biggest upfront cost.
Right.
But because there's so much content, there's a lot of stuff we found in the slush pile that no one wanted, but we thought it would do well for merchandising. Luckily, because of print on demand capabilities, we can put out a t-shirt or a poster relatively quickly. So,
you can test it on your site. And then prove to outside retail, hey, this does really work. We're selling a gajillion pieces.
Yeah, so it's funny. We use our own site analytics to see like, oh, actually this is indexing well in terms of content consumption on the site, but also search on our own site. People are searching for certain characters or brands, and that helps inform like what we need to produce. But also, I won't call out any websites, but there's certain user-generated websites where we check to see what's getting the most search results, what our fans are building, and to help inform like, hey, this fan base is being underserved.
Like the fan art type of things where they upload and can see.
Yeah, but so typically what's interesting is for us, we try to get product to market quickly. So apparel is usually first. Apparel, wall art, things that can be sourced domestically and printed domestically is typically where we start, and then we start expanding into hard goods. In Japan, the model is a bit different. You see all the accessories, hard goods, and figurines launch first. Apparel is almost an afterthought. It comes much later.
It's very interesting considering that those things cost more to actually make. They take a
More
long time.
Yeah. So like cell phone charms, wallets, keychains, PVC charms, acrylic stands, vinyl figurines are the core product. Like our fans want that vinyl figurine more than anything. That good smile and android, that Kotobukiya, scale figure is what gets our fans excited. So we do our best to bring that to our customers on Crunchyroll, so they don't have to try to buy direct from Japan. That's the lion's share of our e-commerce business, but we're seeing huge growth in apparel.
Yeah.
And it's not just slap an image on a t-shirt. Like our team is putting a lot of work into creating more fashion forward silhouettes and designs, and
even more collaborations too. I mean, we talked about a little bit about, Junji Ito and the Misfits, but there's a whole, so talk more about your umbrella brand. It's CR Loves, right? That's your kind of new fashion forward.
Yeah. Our e-commerce team has a really awesome background in working at apparel companies, and they have a real good beat to what's trending in streetwear, and they're bringing us, I think, higher quality designs and cuts, and higher quality prints. These are all multicolor, screen printed, not the quick direct to garment, apparel.
Heat transfer.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes you just want something in the pinch, or that's maybe the only option available. But our team is spending several months creating these apparel capsules and creating a sense of FOMO. Like we'll launch maybe 1 or 2 capsules a month on the Crunchyroll store under the CR Loves brand, and we will not feature that more than 2 weeks. Usually they're gone in the first week.
What are some of your most popular collaborations?
So we did a collaboration with Megan Thee Stallion that was just nuts.
That's insane.
We our team has been reaching out to a lot of influencers, everything from music to athletic influencers or star athletes to the Michael B. Jordans of the world to Myles Garrett, and they've talked about
even NFL players too. I mean,
cool. They've talked about how anime inspired them to be who they are today. And Megan Thee Stallion, in a lot of her songs, has used anime references. And so we reached out to see, is she really an anime fan? And yeah, she is. and so we did an interview with her. And then, the whole apparel capsule thing just sort of spun out of that interview. And our best-selling capsule today. We've also done with Toho, we did a Godzilla capsule. That was a lot of fun. Junji Ito, we've done a few. We've done capsules with our own IPs like Mob Psycho 100, but then I think, and then as well as Mobile Suit Gundam. But having that influencer is huge. Having the Junji Itos and
it's like two worlds colliding, right? You have this whole fandom based off of one genre, and then you have another one coming together. I mean, and we're lucky the worlds aren't imploding, because those are pretty big collaborations.
Yeah, I mean, like Michael B. Jordan is doing Naruto collaborations with, I believe, with Gucci, which is
I think it was Coach. It was pretty
or
cool
Coach,
though.
sorry, with Coach.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing. We're starting to see more high fashion jump into anime. We'll have an announcement later in a few weeks, but
We'll have to keep an eye out on that one.
yeah, and it's really interesting that anime is now on the forefront of fashion. And if you've attended Complex Con, you'll see it firsthand. Like every other booth has anime or J-pop inspired apparel.
Yeah. Are you guys participating in the new Complex Land coming up, the virtual event?
I have to check with Mary on that. So
okay.
I
should have asked her.
Yeah, so we have quite a few licensees in the apparel world who are, but Crunchyroll as a brand, I'm not sure.
Okay, no, just wondering. I love the fact that, again, there is not just the stagnant, let's do it this way, it's always worked this way, because the folks that you want to super serve your fans that you have today, of course, right? You don't want to lose those people. But on the other hand, you want to continue to recruit more fans into the genre, into the brands, into the storytelling. They may discover something they've never thought of before that they really enjoy. And then all of a sudden they're down this rabbit hole just because another piece pulled them in, right? Like a Megan Thee Stallion fan who may not have thought that they might like anime could, through that relationship, just all of a sudden jump into, anime and find that they really love it. I think that those are really interesting, collaborations and tactics, because, everybody in a brand who has a brand has to constantly look to reinvent themselves, not all the time, foundationally, you don't have to shift the house, but, sometimes you do need to change the curtains or something, right? So that you can have more interesting things happening within your brand. So I really commend you guys on that. I really think it's been interesting. I've been watching that a little bit. I missed out on that Godzilla one, but I think that those types of collaborations are really, kind of cool. And you're only dropping them limited, you said, right? Like how often are they popping up?
At least once a month, we'll have a new capsule collection. I mean, there's other promotions we're launching, but the apparel focused CR Loves branded collections are, there's a lot of planning behind them, a lot of creation, a lot of Q&A, a lot of
and there's content that goes with it too, right? Like don't you do like an interview or something?
Sometimes it really depends. The content is sometimes celebrating a particular arc in a story, there's a lot of content created in terms of marketing, but it's the Junji Ito one I think was with Misfits that was a year of work.
Wow. Okay.
The door. So
it makes sense, because if you had to commission new art and stuff,
so that the e-commerce team is thinking about how can we bring something really you can't find anywhere else, and we try to do that with other retail partners as well, but it's just a little bit easier to us to talk to our fans directly and tie them back to the content on the platform.
Any other new types of ideas or new types of relationships, or just in general? You don't have to drop anything confidential, but just the types of relationships we should look out for, or anything coming?
We're seeing anime is really big in hip hop. I think you're going to see a lot more there. The new types of relationships I want to form are how do we do an anime and Hasbro collaboration, or how do we
Transformers started as an animated series in Japan,
or how do we one thing I've been chasing for years and I'm never going to stop chasing is doing an anime and Lego collab.
Oh wow.
I want the Legos themselves, but to recreate our characters as Lego characters is something that is on my bucket list. It's they've not shown a ton of interest. I've talked to a few employees at Lego who they themselves love anime. It's just been a hard sell internally. I think they need to catch up to the rest of the world. I think
that's a symbol that those are great ideas. Like all the pings, it's like, yes, that's a good one. And that's a good one. All right. Well, Lego folks, if you're watching, Hasbro people, if you're watching, I know there's a few of you in my network. There's some ideas out there that Mike Melby wants to work with you on. I think some of them have some pretty good potential as well. So Mike, we're like we told you before off air, this goes pretty quickly. So we're actually starting to wind down our time together. So any last tidbits, and also tell us where we could find you or find more Crunchyroll.
Oh my gosh. So crunchyroll.com is where you'll find all this awesome product and content. You can also find Crunchyroll on pretty much any mobile device. So there is Crunchyroll via mobile apps on iOS and Android, web, smart TV. Where there's a connection, you'll find us. As for me, I actually have to look up my URL. So my LinkedIn is mmelby. So linkedin.com/in/mmelby. And anyone that needs an intro to anime, anyone that if you just want to, get an anime 101 or know who to contact about certain brands, if we don't have it, I'll point you in the right direction. But I know anime is really overwhelming because there's so much content, but there's something for everyone, and we can be your lighthouse to help you navigate through it all.
Yeah, I love that. That should be your slogan. It could be your lighthouse to help you navigate it. All right. So again, Mike, thank you again for joining me on this time. I'm really, I'm a big fan of yours. I'm a big fan of Crunchyroll in general and the team. So love everything that you guys are doing. The e-commerce stuff. I mean, I love it. So really keep up the good work, everybody. I know you represent a ton of other people behind you. So good job, everybody that's at Crunchyroll. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, if this was your first time, thank you for showing up and supporting this little live stream every week. If you come back next week, we're going to have something, of course, even more interesting or maybe more fun. Every week we try to celebrate our own little holiday, FanGirl Friday. So we are FanGirl Friday Live. We have a YouTube channel as well, so you can catch all the replays. In fact, Christina Braxton was our last week guest from the NFLPA. She's going to be up on the YouTube this week, and Mike Melby will be there by next week. So if you haven't caught it, all of it, you can catch it on replay next week. So thank you again, everybody, and happy FanGirl Friday. Bye.
Thank you.